Welcome to the Shorten Anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of The Great Ruler. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The Great Ruler, Season 1, Episode 7. The curtains gradually closed for the Academy competition. However, the after effects created by the Academy competition continued to envelop the Northern Spiritual Academy. For a few days, the entire Northern Spiritual Academy was discussing about that fierce battle at the Academy competition. In the Northern Spiritual Academy, Mu Chen would always remain modest. If it wasn't because of the matter regarding about the spiritual road, perhaps many students wouldn't even pay attention to him. Although he had quite a powerful background, there was still a bit of gap in terms of reputation when you compare it with a dazzling figure like Liu Yang. Before the match between Mu Chen and Liu Yang, many individuals did not feel that Mu Chen was promising, but something unexpected appeared in front of their eyes. Mu Chen, who seemingly remained a low profile, triumphantly defeated Liu Yang. He managed to successfully ascend to the Heaven class with the title of Earth class number 1. Moreover, everybody knew that he would be able to have a decent rank in the Northern Spiritual Academy Heaven class with his spiritual movement stage middle phase strength. This shocked many individuals. Only now they felt that it wasn't so unbelievable for Mu Chen to be able to obtain the only one spiritual roads qualification within the Northern Spiritual Realm. At the Northern Spiritual Academy, the Heaven class could be considered the gathering place for all the outstanding students. In other words, the weakest members of the Heaven class would still have the strength of a spiritual movement stage initial phase. Every single student would treat Heaven class as their goal. This is because it was the only path to enter the 5 great academies. They would only be qualified to compete for a place within the 5 great academies if they ascend to the Heaven class. The selection for the 5 great academies was extremely harsh. The first condition was that the student must have reached the spiritual rotation stage before the age of 18. Just this one condition, many youth dreams were stopped. Within the current Heaven class in the Northern Spiritual Academy, there are probably no more than 5 individuals who reach this requirement. Therefore, you could see how terrifying the acceptance conditions are for the 5 great academies. Despite the harsh conditions, many talented youths would flock to it like moths flying towards a flame. This is because of the powerful might of the 5 great academies. Even Mu Chen knew clearly about it. Even this vast Northern Spiritual Realm was less than an ant in the eyes of the 5 great academies. The territory lords at this place were at most at the level of a spirit stage. This strength would probably be easily surpassed by any instructor inside the 5 great academies. Moreover, genuine sovereign powerhouses exist in the 5 great academies. These individuals are big shots that could easily upturn the world. If they would like to emerge out of the countless geniuses throughout the great thousand world, even gifted youths like Mu Chen would not be able to become someone big without proper guidance. Even the most unrefined diamond would only shine through a master's careful engraving. This high-end cultivation guidance was something that neither the Northern Spiritual Academy nor Mu Chen's father could give him. Based on Mu Feng's description, if Mu Chen's mother was by his side, perhaps she could do it, but unfortunately. So the 5 great academies was a stepping stone for becoming strong. Oi, the 2 of you should hurry. You're heading for the first time to train at the Heaven class today, yet you are still fooling around. At a gravel road covered by trees' shadows inside the Northern Spiritual Academy, Tang Xianer muttered as she stared in dissatisfaction towards the 2 boys behind her. Mu Chen looked at the slim figure of Tang Xianer and said lazily, "Why are you so impatient? Isn't there still some time? You idiot! All the good locations would be taken at the cultivation field since you're so slow." Tang Xianer batted an eye at Mu Chen and spoke. Mu Chen helplessly shook his head. Beside him, Tan Qingshan scratched his head and said, "Mu Chen, let's listen to Senior Qianer and speed up a bit." He stared at the graceful and exquisite figure of the girl, and his stern expression turned slightly red. Mu Chen glanced at his red face in surprise. He could not help but laugh and say, "Do you like Sister Qianer?" Tan Qingshan's face instantly turned red. Sweat began to emerge on his forehead. Bang! Before Mu Chen had a chance to say more, he noticed Tang Xianer turning back and walking over here in anger. Her slender leg was raised and she directly kicked Mu Chen's knee. "If you keep talking nonsense, do you believe that I will hit you?" Tang Xianer raised her eyebrow and asked. The pain coming from his knee made Mu Chen grin. However, he seemed to have noticed that the girl was a bit angry from the fact that she raised her eyebrow. He immediately let out a dry cough and quickly said, "Let's go. Let's hurry to the cultivation field." Tang Xianer let out a quiet "Humph." She walked forward again while she talked. "You two have only just entered the heaven class, so you are still considered to be newbies. In the future, you should be more attentive. The heaven class is quite troublesome, and there are many irritating individuals. Although your father may be the Mu territory lord, many individuals would not care about it within the Northern Spiritual Academy. Sister Xianer, do I look like a person who enjoys using my father's identity to oppress others?" Mu Chen chuckled and said. Tang Xianer thought for a moment, then she nodded. Mu Chen never did mention about his father's identity. The reputation he had within the Northern Spiritual Academy was earned by himself. "It's best if you know it," Tang Xianer chided. "You should also know that you should not tease those old farts in the heaven class. They are not qualified to continue higher, but this is why it is a hassle." Mu Chen nodded. He knew what Tang Xianer was referring to by those old farts. It was the veteran students that have not left the Northern Spiritual Academy and are already disqualified from entering the 5 great academies. Because these students failed to reach the spiritual rotation stage by 18, they lost the qualifications to enter the 5 great academies. Without this goal, there were some that muddle around aimlessly like a mixed taste that hasn't departed from your mouth yet. It was these individuals who do not care about the Northern Spiritual Academy's rules. Thus, in most cases, very few were willing to provoke them. "I do not like to provoke others." Mu Chen shook his head and did not say anything more. However, Tang Xianer understood the meaning behind those words as they were quite close. He would not provoke others, but if others were to provoke him, this seemingly good-natured boy would let them understand a person isn't like their appearance. "Relax, I will protect you. Within the East Branch Heaven class, I was never afraid of anyone." Tang Xianer smiled tenderly. The girl's smile was like a flower. It was quite moving. Seeing their informal conversation, Tan Xingshan could not get a word in, and he could only just follow them. The 3 of them walked towards the east side of the Northern Spiritual Academy. 10 minutes later, they finally stopped. They stared directly in front. Located there was an enormous great hall. Outside of the great hall, there was a crowd of students hurrying inside. Mu Chen stared at the great hall, and a touch of surprise passed through his eyes. At the location, he could feel that the spiritual aura within the world seemed to be attracted and gathered at the center of the great hall continuously. The spiritual aura within the world seemed to be many times denser compared to the outside. "Is this a spirit convergence array?" Mu Chen asked. Tang Xianer nodded and said with a prideful voice, "This cultivation hall is an important location for the Northern Spiritual Academy. Only the Heaven class students are qualified to enter this place. The Northern Spiritual Academy paid a great price in order to invite a Spirit Array Master from the 5 great academies to arrange a 3rd-rank Spirit Convergence Array inside this cultivation hall. This is also the only 3rd-rank Spirit Convergence Array in the Northern Spiritual Realm." "A 3rd-rank Spirit Convergence Array?" Mu Chen smacked his lips. A Spirit Convergence Array was a spiritual array that is extremely beneficial for cultivation. As the young master of the Mu territory, he naturally understood the value of a 3rd-rank Spirit Convergence Array. This level of spiritual array was not something that the Mu territory could arrange. Without mentioning about the enormous amount of rare ingredients it required, even a spiritual array master wasn't something that many forces could afford in the Northern Spiritual Realm. The Northern Spiritual Academy must have performed many favors in order to invite one over. It is said that there are Spirit Convergence Arrays at the 6th rank or higher in the 5 great academies. The cultivation speed at those locations is simply incomparable, Tan Xianer said with a longing voice. A 3rd-rank Spirit Convergence Array was already this amazing. Then it was impossible to imagine how amazing a legendary 6th-rank Spirit Convergence Array would be. When you enter the 5 great academies, you will naturally be able to experience it. Come on, let's enter now. Mu Chen smiled and he led them inside the most precious hall within the Northern Spiritual Academy. After passing through the heavily guarded doors, a vast plaza appeared in their eyes. Many stone pillars with complex spirit engravings were positioned inside the plaza. As the lights flashed, the spiritual aura within the world was gathered at this location. Oh! Mu Chen gently let out a light breath. He could feel the rich spiritual aura entering his body through his breath and could not help but letting out a praise. It truly is a 3rd-rank Spirit Convergence Array. The cultivation time is about to come. Let's hurry inside. The closer you are to the spiritual array, the denser the spiritual aura would be. We must find a good position. As she pulled Mu Chen, Tang Xian'er walked quickly with Tan Qingshan to the inside off the cultivation field. There were already numerous heaven-class students at the cultivation field. It was apparent that Tang Xian'er's reputation was quite big within the East Branch heaven class. Many people shot a gaze over as they saw her actions. Who is that boy? He's actually getting so close to Tang Xian'er. Oh, you don't even know him? He is that Mu Chen. A few days ago at the academy competition, he defeated Liu Yang and ascended to the heaven class with the title of the Earth class #1. It is said that this Mu Chen has already reached the spiritual movement stage middle phase. Spiritual movement stage? Middle phase? That's quite amazing. He would be rather high up within the heaven class with that level of strength. He's pretty good. However, it is not enough to become fearless within the heaven class. Who knows how many people like Tang Xian are over here. Zhang Li, Teng Yong are also both at the spiritual movement stage middle phase. This boy will probably cause a lot of trouble. While these people spoke, they stared at the other direction within the cultivation field. A few figures were quietly sitting cross-legged over there. However, their face seemed to have slightly darkened, and they stared sullenly at the source that caused this. It was Tang Xian'er, pulling Mu Chen. As Mu Chen was pulled by Tang Xian'er, he glanced around the location and saw the numerous gazes. He immediately let out a helpless smile. It seems that he underestimated Tang Xian'er's popularity within the East Branch Heaven class. Let's sit over here. Tang Xian'er ignored the gazes coming from the cultivation field as she pulled Mu Chen directly inside the cultivation hall. Then she stopped at a location near a golden stone pillar. Beside the stone platform that extended from the stone pillar, there were 3 jade-like rock cushions. Mu Chen looked around, but his eyes still remained at the golden stone pillar. Following this, he was shocked. This is because he could feel a dense spiritual aura emitting from the golden stone pillar. It was evident that this golden stone pillar should be one of the many spirit convergence pillars of the rank 3 spirit convergence array. The effects of a place near the spirit convergence pillar were definitely better than anywhere else. This spirit convergence pillar was probably created by spirit convergence rocks. It indeed is a rank 3 spirit convergence array. Mu Chen let out a praise. The spirit convergence rock was a material beneficial to cultivation, and the price was not cheap. The cost of creating a spirit convergence pillar completely through spirit convergence rocks would be quite high. No wonder many people would treat spirit convergence array as a sign of wealth. Tang Xian'er nodded and sat down cross-legged. Then she extended her slender arms and puffed up her chest slightly. As her clothes showed a charming curve, it made many individuals sneak a peek at her. Qingshan, you should also start cultivating over here. Mu Chen also sat down and directed a smile at Qingshan. He knew this cultivation spot was probably pretty good, and many would want to fight for it. However, he was not afraid. Although he did not want to be overly well known, he would not act low-key purposely and insult himself. Mu Chen's butt set onto the jade rock cushion. He felt the surrounding spiritual aura become more and more dense. This made him immediately circulate the great pagoda art. Traces of spiritual aura were absorbed into his body continuously. It turned into dark black spiritual power after it was refined by the great pagoda art and flowed into his aura sea. The spiritual aura inside gradually became more vigorous. Even with Mu Chen's calmness, this clear increase of spiritual energy made him feel joy within his heart. Then he was immersed completely in cultivation. Beside him, Tang Xian'er noticed that Mu Chen had directly entered into the cultivation state. She pouted slightly and then closed her eyes and began the cultivation process. But their cultivation state did not last long before it was disrupted by a noisy sound from the outside world. Mu Chen was the first one to open his eyes. He looked at his left towards Tan Qingshan. However, he noticed that the boy had a ghastly pale face. His hands were clenched tightly, and it was obvious that he was suppressing his anger greatly. In front of the boy, there were 2 slightly old youths. They were laughing and would point at Tan Qingshan from time to time. "What are you doing?" Mu Chen frowned and said with a cold voice as he looked at the 2 youths. The 2 youths noticed Mu Chen and frowned as well. One of them let out a faint smile and extended a hand over. "So you're Mu Chen? I've heard your name a long time ago. I'm Zhang Li, and he's Teng Yong." Mu Chen stared at the hand extended by Zhang Li. However, he did not stretch his hand to shake it. From the latter's eyes, he noticed a hint of hostility. What do you want? Seeing that Mu Chen did not react, Zhang Li and the Teng Yong's faces were quite unnatural. They immediately pointed at Tan Qingshan and smiled. Nothing. We only wanted to exchange locations with him. We're not changing. Next time, you should come here earlier and take it. Mu Chen faintly spoke. Zhang Li, what are you doing? At this moment, Tang Xianer also woke up. When she saw this scene, her beautiful eyes revealed anger. She shouted out as she lifted her eyebrow. Zhang Li shrugged his shoulders and said, Xianer, you should know the rules of this cultivation field. This location isn't a recently arrived newbie can sit in. In order to avoid others from being jealous, I was doing this for his own good, Zhang Li said and glanced at Mu Chen. Although they disliked Mu Chen, they also knew that Mu Chen wasn't someone they should provoke. His strength wasn't any bit inferior to them, and his background was not weak. Therefore, they did not cause trouble for Mu Chen directly, and instead picked on Tan Qingshan, who was beside him. It was evident that he was planning to strike at Mu Chen indirectly through this. You! Tang Xianier's eyes were filled with rage. She was about to speak, but was interrupted by Mu Chen. The latter frowned at Zhang Li and Teng Yong. He seemed to have thought for a moment before saying, I know that only powerful individuals are qualified to sit in this position. I believe that I possess this right. Tan Qingshan is my friend, so that is why he sat over here. If you have any opinions regarding about this, or if you want to show off your strength in front of me, I'll accompany you. Their movements made many people watch them. Thus, Mu Chen's remarks also entered their ears completely. A commotion rang out instantly. This newcomer sure was amazing. Zhang Li and Teng Yong's faces gradually turned unsightly as the commotion rang out. It was evident that they did not expect the seemingly mild Mu Chen would act so tough. They stared furiously at Mu Chen's serious expression, but they did not dare to shout at him. They heard about the battle between Mu Chen and Liu Yang. Liu Yang, who possesses a spiritual pulse, was someone that they weren't sure that they could beat, yet Mu Chen succeeded. Therefore, they did not have any confidence that they would be able to defeat Mu Chen. Oh, as expected from the Mu territory's young master. He really is prideful when he speaks. Just when Zhang Li and Teng Yong had no way of backing down, a uncomforting laughter sound suddenly came from behind. Zhang Li and Teng Yong looked, and a hint of happiness lit up in their eyes. Big brother Luo! When he heard their surprised voices, Mu Chen also tilted his head. He only noticed a figure slowly walking over. That figure was around 18 years old with sunken eyes, and his thin lips revealed a hint of mercilessness. Luo Tong! Tang Xianer stared at this person, and her face sank slightly as she spoke. Luo Tong? Mu Chen frowned. This name was not new to him. This is because this guy's father was also a territory lord within the Northern Spiritual Realm. However, Luo Tong already passed 18 years old last year, yet his current strength remained at spiritual movement stage late phase. In other words, he had already lost the right to enter the 5 great academies. This also means that he was an old fart that Tang Xianer mentioned before, and was an extremely troubling individual. Mu Chen, it's been a while. Luo Tong arrived in front of Mu Chen and smiled. However, this smile was not kind and gentle. The two of them knew each other from a long time ago, but they disliked each other. Mu Chen glanced at him and said, So you also came here to put on the airs? How could I possibly dare to do that? You are a genius that obtained the qualifications for the spiritual road. Luo Tong curled his lips and pretended to be surprised. However, the jealousy within his voice could not be concealed. When he first heard that Mu Chen obtained the qualifications for the spiritual road, he was so jealous that his eyes turned red. Moreover, he is currently 18, yet he failed to reach the spiritual rotation stage. This cut apart his wish of entering the 5 great academies. When he thought about Mu Chen's talent, and that it wouldn't be difficult for him to enter the 5 great academies, the flames of jealousy raged within his heart. Mu Chen retracted his gaze and was too lazy to care about this jealous and pitiful guy. Compared to Liu Mubai, this Luo Tong was nothing. Hand over your seat. When Luo Tong saw that Mu Chen ignored him, the anger in his eyes grew. However, he did not directly challenge Mu Chen. Instead, he let out a cold shout towards Tan Qingshan. Whether it was strength or background, it was obvious that he did not put Tan Qingshan in his eyes. Luo Tong, you shouldn't go too far. Mu Chen's voice became colder. What? You're unwilling to listen? You want to fight with me? Luo Tong also let out a cold smile as he spoke. He was at the spiritual movement stage late phase. Therefore, he was not afraid of Mu Chen at all. Instead, he wanted to stir up Mu Chen's fury and take care of this person. who made him jealous. Mu Chen's black eyes stared at Luo Tong. When Luo Tong saw those unfathomable black eyes, Luo Tong's imposing manner actually paused for a moment. It did not matter how jealous he got. He still understood what it represented when Mu Chen obtained the qualification for the spiritual road. If it wasn't because Mu Chen was suddenly kicked out of the spiritual road, he probably wouldn't have the qualification to yell in front of Mu Chen. His imposing manner paused for a moment, but Luo Tong quickly recovered. No matter what Mu Chen experienced, he was still a person at the spiritual movement stage middle phase. He simply wasn't his opponent. "Do you dare?" Luo Tong turned his embarrassment into fury and said, "Luo Tong, what are you doing?" Before Mu Chen replied, a deep voice rang out from nearby. Everybody looked over and noticed a tall, burly figure approaching quickly. He then stood in front of Luo Tong and shouted out, "Mo Ling, don't you think you're too controlling?" Luo Tong stared at the burly boy in front of him and frowned. The person in front of him was a celebrity in the Northern Spiritual Academy. His ranking is only second to the West Branch Heaven classes, Liu Mubai. Right now, he is also at the spiritual movement stage late phase, but he would most likely break through to the spiritual rotation stage in half a year. When that happens, he would be eligible to compete for a place at the 5 great academies. He is someone who was the Northern Spiritual Academy would focus on nurturing. It will soon be the cultivation lesson. If you cause trouble here, Teacher Mo would not forgive you. It seemed that Mo Ling did not like Luo Tong as well, and he lifted an eyebrow as he spoke. Luo Tong's face instantly became ugly. However, he knew that Mo Ling did not fear him, so he could only bitterly grit his teeth. At this moment, a figure slowly entered the cultivation field. Everybody fell silent when they saw that figure. This is because it was Teacher Mo. When Luo Tong noticed Teacher Mo's appearance, he did not dare to keep at it and raised a fist toward Mu Chen. Then he returned back to his seat unwillingly. "Are you okay? That person is quite annoying. You just have to get used to it." When Mo Ling noticed that Luo Tong departing, he smiled and asked Mu Chen, "We're fine." "Thank you." Mu Chen smiled kindly and replied, "It's fine. I've heard about you before. You are the only one that qualified for the spiritual road. Oh ho ho. It seems like I'll have some pressure from now on." Mo Ling smiled and waved his hand. Then, without saying anything more, he turned around and left. Mu Chen stared at the back of Mo Ling and smiled. He had a good impression of that burly boy. "Mu Chen, thank you." Tan Qingshan also showed some gratitude as he spoke. "We came here together, so we should take care of each other. Just ignore those individuals. You will become stronger than them soon." Mu Chen gave a faint smile. Tan Qingshan nodded strongly. At this moment, Teacher Mo had always walked leisurely into the cultivation field. He glanced at Mu Chen, but he did not say anything at all. He only waved his hand and numerous lights flew directly into the stone pillars. Afterwards, everybody was able to feel that the spiritual aura within the cultivation field becoming denser. It was obvious that Teacher Mo had completely activated the spirit convergence array. Mu Chen felt the rich spiritual aura and smiled. Without saying anything, he closed his eyes and entered the cultivation state again. He absorbed the spiritual energy into his body and refined it. The cultivation time of half a day quickly passed. Just when Mu Chen absorbed the final trace of spiritual energy into his aura sea and was about to end his cultivation, his body suddenly trembled violently. A wonderful feeling emitted from his aura sea. Mu Chen was startled by this sudden feeling for a moment. Shortly after, a surprised feeling surged through his mind. Did the Great Pagoda art reach the foundation level? That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.